my speech today is regarding Economist brain exploration textbooks, which it can be said EBET. Since we have limitation for this recording, I should take care of the information, but these are the abbreviation of today's discourse: Principles of Economy, Modern Economic Textbooks, International Organizational Textbook. These are the observation which I had. And I have tried to study coefficient of determination, or in terms of statistics, R squared. For complementary issue, I used classification of regression tree as well. And I have looked to textbook as a capital good. The thing which it is very important is that we are facing a Z generation as a demand side that work with internet, mobile, and their utility function is quite different with what we as economists are teaching in the university. I have tried to see the coefficient of variation as well, and the other problems which you can see. In brief, today's discourse consists of economics, the problems of economics which we are facing, such as market failure and government failure. These are comes to the 1920 Pigot British economist discuss about welfare economy, and its famous text is available. And later on in 1962, we are facing the work of Buchanan and Tullock, which they are presenting the text of public choice. The language which I have adopted, it is oriented toward neoclassical economists, and it consists of 4 sections: market mechanism, resource endowments, economic problems, and economics indicators. In fact, in this yardstick, I have used 19 variables to check the problems which we are facing in our textbooks. Textbooks here counted to be as a commodity in the simple analytical analysis of market. And brain is the main part which shows economist brain exploration and follow the production possibility frontier. And when you go to detail, I will show you that what the problem goes on. The text consists of content, appendix, key terms, references, glossary, and indexed. Our text has a utility, and this utility function is not well defined because it has a complementary with these subsection, and we have to study that this text as a language of economics, which kind of role play. The core center of capital good is relied over textbooks, and the textbooks is under study from 2 sides. One, text orientation, and again, the variables or words inside the text as a productive talent which we are facing. Central part of today's discourse are language, which it is very important. For instance, if we select a textbooks, remind you that we had 41 texts, and if you take into consider these Adam Smith, Karl Marx, Marshall, Friedman, and others, then you can see that which kind of historian orientation we might face. For Clayton, text of Principles of Economy, you can find that COD, coefficient of determination, is 84%. For Little is 83%. Case of micro and macro is 75 and 72. In case of Krugman, it is 86. And for Murphy, it is 80%. On the other side, we are facing bourgeois labor economy. It is only 26%. You can see that it is much lower than the high COD. And case of Kazes in labor economy, published by ILO, which it has only 5%. And between these two texts, labor economy and Kazes, I will show you that how which kind of difficulty exists between these two texts, and as well we can say about development economics. World Economic Forum, it is 36%, IMF 33%, Amartya Sen, Development as Freedom, is 21%, and Nguyen Zhang, Rethinking Economics, is only 37%. This is another orientation toward modern linkage. We are facing Principles of Economy, Mankiv. From knowledge economy, we are selecting the case of textbook of Manga. For development economy, I went toward Michael Todaro, and for labor economy, selected Borges, and for international economics, I have selected the case of Krugman. Then you can see that how the coefficient of determination decreased from 88% text of Amartya Sen to Berg, environmental economics, which it is 47%. This study in new window, we should open toward the pluralism in economics, which requisite for consolidation. My suggestion is that we go after simple, effective language curriculum, which has the view of further participation by students as well as the people. The economists are facing words, observation, axioms, and language, plus theory as a key factors of economic structure. And the final suggestion is that we have to go toward trust economy as a response to new Z generation and support post-capitalistic civilization. I have overemphasized for integration over axioms of economic textbook, which it is a very difficult job, but it has to be done. I'm sure that some groups of researchers, they are working on that. And re-study of axioms of modern economic textbooks, which is really important. As I said earlier, market failure, government failure leads to economic failure, and finally, economist failure. Then my question is, who is responsible? And to my view, economists are responsible for that. Market failure is due to public goods, monopoly power, information asymmetry, immobility, which Pigot described very well. And government failure faces bureaucracy, information problem, political self-interest, and consequences of policies or externalities exist for the government activity. And James Buchanan, in his famous text of public choice, developed in 1962, described that we have to go toward public choice. This is economist identity, which it is going to talk about utility of words weaving. Why I am insisting on words weaving? Because economists are writers, and readers, they cannot follow what writers are talking about. Therefore, words, theory, axioms, and textbooks can describe the language which exchange between university professors and students of university or politician as a user. And as far as exploration of utility function is concerned, we have to think that which kind of utility function we are looking after. Is it linear, complementary, merging, exponential, or it is a Cobb-Douglas utility function? The critical part is that principles of economics, principles of utility maximization should meet the requirements. As far as the utility function, we have to think that does the textbook utility function follow this formula? Is utility function linear or merging? And as far as the text is concerned, we are facing a roadmap. It started with 2 different roads, and then again, in this jungle of management, we are going for new roads, and these branches continue, and the problem with economic textbooks increases. Therefore, opportunity cost that is important to understand which road we have to select. And supply and demand, the textbook is an asset for human capital. There is network externalities and misunderstandable concept. Then I made a question, is this the main problems our academic scholars are faced? I do feel that yes. Then if you go toward axioms of traditional economics, traditional economic model, you will face rationality, equilibrium, marginalism, scarcity, welfare, and opportunity cost, which the question is, does rationality fail too? It is a debatable answer, but it is possible. In the language of economics, as a complex system, we are facing 2 groups, writers and readers, which it is under my study today, and a speaker and listener, which they are facing fragmentation. As far as the writers and readers are concerned, we are facing mainstream, neoclassical economics, which I have accepted as a yardstick for today discourse analysis, and heterodox economics. And the methodology I use, it is neoclassical, which this should be linked to keyword model and then linked to the price model, and textbooks as my observation, which it is being divided in 3 groups as it is being taught in the university for the students. The keyword model shows that our orientation is toward neoclassical, which market mechanism has 13 observation, resource endowments, such as land, labor, and capital, economics problem, such as inflation and unemployment, and economic indicators such as efficiency, productivity, and technology, and etc. The linear regression assumptions and cart regression assumptions are brought here. I tried to select both to show that we can talk about linearity as well as non-linear. But the problem with cart is binary splitting. As you can see in this slide, regression model, the text, if it is going toward knowledge economic, behavioral economic, information economic, learning economic, and game theory, then you can see that Adam Smith has only 28% coefficient of determination. Marshall increases to 37%. John Maynard Keynes comes to 50%. Micro and macro over 70%. Krugman 90%. Asemoglu 75%. And Moin-Jung 31%. Does uniformity hold? If you look on this picture which the son of my brother sent for me, consistency, the people is thinking is the part here up, while the consistency actually is a downside glasses. As far as the Pareto chart is considered, I have selected 8 variables. Then policy for principles of economy shows that we have given priority over ACD. It means price, inflation, and unemployment, but the trends shows something quite different. As far as the equilibrium model is concerned, again, we are ranking the words, and you can see that the third ranking is efficiency, while the ranking of productivity is the last ranks. And the coefficient of determination for POE is 98%. For modern economic textbook is only 25%, and the trend is 30%. Since the number of observation for international organizational textbook was low, therefore this equilibrium model was not applicable. Have a look on this dispersion of words in the different texts. You can see that principles of economics has 58% stability as far as the mean and standard deviation is concerned. For modern economic textbooks, we have 32% stability, and for IOTB, it's 47%. Therefore, the trend shows only 32% of the words, which it is, in fact, variables, has a greater stability. By greater stability, I mean the coefficient of variation less than 100. This is the new Z generation, and this is new Z generation that they are facing time consumption, service sector development, big changes of utility function, and population pressure, and uncertain future. If you go toward classification of price model, then you can say that principles of economic textbooks divided into historical, such as Adam Smith, John Stuart Mill, Pigot, Alfred Marshall, and modern principles of economy, such as Mankiw, Greenlaw, Frank, Case, and so on. So An international organizational textbook divided to those texts published by UN and ILO versus IMF and World Bank. For METB, modern economic textbook classification has been done. Each category, as the picture shows, has different tastes and consequences. Therefore, studying these textbooks needs careful attention in building theoretical framework in our studies. You can see here that METB CART classification, different groups you can find: labor economy, international economy. These are in this section: learning economy, knowledge economy, information economy, and even vain development economy is here, while behavioral economics, Todaro, development economics, and history of economic thought are in the third group, and political economy and Moynihan, rethinking of economy, is on the last part. These modern economic textbooks, if you compare with each other, then you can see that behavioral economy has 68% coefficient of determination. Information economy comes decreased to 56%. Knowledge economy comes to 25%, and learning economy is 6.82%. This is their dependency over micro and macro approach. These are principles of labor economy. These are axioms of knowledge economy. These are axioms of information economy. And lemon economy, which created in information economics today, and our job is oriented toward information. Externality of these information linkages is too high, and black markets for information services improving, comes to average 20% of the world economy. This is principles of international economics that I put a question: is there anything wrong here? It might be. I remember when I was in university, the head of the university, head of the Department of Economics, Eshfaq Qadri, was studying in his room Heckscher-Euler theorem. And then I asked him that, is there anything wrong here? He said, yes, there is, but I cannot find it. Therefore, still the same question arises. And when you look on regression model as far as the technology is concerned, for these variables, demand, supply, equilibrium, price, and policy, then the different category of our observation has different coefficient of determination. Here we are facing, in this slide, Miller's law that contain 7 ± 2 words for brain capacity for processing the word, while at least 800 keywords are available in principles of economic textbooks, which is highly interrelated variables. Remind you that 0.6% of textbook is devoted to index, and the index should be improved, as we can talk about. This is the brain. I made a question: does brain is a good organizer? Interlocking markets and power distribution. You can see that economist brain exploration follow the textbooks of utility function, and what make changes for the economists is their view as an art or science, which it is a big debate started years ago. This is the proposed plan I forwarded, and the production possibility frontier for the brain of economists, that they are providing words allocation. They have to think of logical and lexical terminology. And we should not forget that language has utility and value. And these are the cultural identity which we have in our universities. We should not forget that language has its own ambiguity. And as I have studied before, it shows that as Galbraith talk, he says that our economy faces arcane concept, obscure language, and this shows symptoms of deeper disorder. And he added that economists are bad writers. This paper presented in 1962 as Economist and Economics. The correlation of Spearman words correlation, you can see that for different words, the POE is more than 68%. For METB, it started from 4% to maximum 55%. And for IOTB, it's between minus 0.19% up to 0.86%. In this 3D, you can see that equilibrium, supply, and demand, the texts are not in one surface. And simple regression model in parallel text shows that Mankiw and Greenlaw has 91%, while in the other side, between Borges and Kazes in labor economy, it is 1%. Are there two different languages? Yes, it is. And as far as the coefficient of determination for price model is concerned, you can see that, again, COD is different, even for regression analysis and cart regression. I have checked science approach for the different texts, game theory, econometrics, mathematical economy, and you can see that texts of Pigot, Clayton, macroeconomics of Shapiro, Mankiw are well-oriented, but weak orientation is with Adam Smith, Marshall, Keynes, Manga, Todaro, and Lundvall. These are the difference really disturbing us, that why the first stone for our movement faces such a big debate. And these are the regression analysis for productivity versus inflation and unemployment for different groups. And the question is, can we trust the textbooks? Is it a source of failure? Does the language of mainstream and heterodox economy need integration? How should this gap decrease? How to improve knowledge of economics for our students today? And my answer is that we can no longer trust the textbooks. The Z generation demand wealthier and happier life. One nation could not compete with two languages, and we ought to support our civilization, and our economist has to provide best possible services. And then I put 3D and cart optimal trees for different texts, and also for productivity model. And you can see here that even in principles of economy, some texts are not in the accepted domain. And here also for the trend as well, you can see that so many texts are not in the domain studied here.